Welcome back to the Resting Stitch Face podcast. I'm Dr. Erin Sheffield with our co-host,
Dr. Sarah Harding.
Welcome back. I am just coming back from 2 conferences this week. I got back from our annual association meeting, AAOMS. We say AMOS, which is kind of a funny way to say it, right? Who is Amos?
Yeah.
So the Amos meeting. And then I went to the Fem Health Cares, trying to get this right, Digital Physician Leader Symposium. So I'm coming off of 2 conferences, thinking about the experience, and I thought this might be an interesting topic. What is your conference experience? What kind of conferences do you usually go to? How are you getting your continuing education?
I hate conferences. That's all. When I was in college, I was part of the Student Alumni Association. And so I remember going to conferences national conferences that were based around that. And it was all people of my same age and doing kind of the same thing that I was doing. And so we were able to talk about strategies for that. And they were relatable and it wasn't pretentious and it wasn't, like I don't know. It just wasn't, it was just like comfortable and it was a learning experience. Then I went to Amos. My first one was when I was a chief and it was in Hawaii. And that was cool because I'd never been to Hawaii before. And
I was there too. I missed you.
it's so funny. How funny. But I remember walking around, I was so confused because you get this huge manual of all of these course descriptions. And all of these courses that are offered. And I remember going into 1 or 2 and it was a general dentist talking about implants. And I'm like, I'm so confused by this. Isn't this an oral surgery thing? And I understand that other people are doing implants, but I'm very confused by this. You know what I mean? And I didn't know how to allot my time because it seemed very difficult to plan for me for whatever reason. The information was kind of spread around and I didn't really understand that some things you had to get a ticket for ahead of time and some things you didn't, it was open, and some things aren't even published in the thing. And so you don't know about them until after the fact and everybody's posting about it. And you're like, oh my gosh, I wish I'd known about that. And then Erin, like you were saying this last time with all of the industry events that they hold, it's almost like this who's who knows who sort of thing. Because if you don't know anybody, you don't know about it. And so then it's almost as this sort of self-licking ice cream cone. And so you're not meeting new people and you're not engaging new people because it's all just like, oh, well, the who's who of who would be here if they knew about it. Which I think is such a elitist, sort of strange way of doing it. And so I just never feel like I actually get out of it what I really want to get out of it, which is like CE, really learning new things, having honest conversations about what we do for a living and how to overcome certain challenges. Or I think the one thing that is nice is kind of meeting up with people from residency or people from dental school and seeing these people from across the country that I don't get to see. But otherwise, it's overwhelming for me. And the juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me with these big national ones. So
that all really resonates with me. And I kind of suspected maybe you'd feel the same way. I suspect other people have a lot of these feelings. And I want to start with the first thing, like the vendor events, etc. I didn't know. I've been going to these for years. I go most years to the Amos annual meeting. And I didn't know until I became friends with Dr. Jacqueline Tomsick. And I started hanging out with her, and she'd be like, come to the Aspen event and come to the Nobel dinner and come to this and that. And I had no idea any of this was coming on. And I'd be hanging out with her and her friends, and we'd just be like hopping from place to the next. And are you going to this? Like, I don't even know about it. And are you
Right.
going to this? And I didn't even know about it. And they were like, Amos is all about the parties and not having to ever buy your own food or something. And I was like, it is? Because I went for like 8 years before I even knew there were parties.
Yeah.
And then it does feel very much like, are you in the inn? So, I mean, something to do is like to ask people if you're interested in that kind of thing. Hey, is there a party? Or ask the big vendors because they're doing them. I'm also not really a big party person. I don't drink is probably a big part of it. And I'm old and I'm a mom. So I'm in my 40s at a party watching a bunch of residents drinking because there's free booze and it's 11 p.m. But I'm like kind of stuck with someone else there because I don't want to go home by myself.
Yeah.
And I'm just tired and I want to go to
Oh.
bed.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So then to contrast that with last year's Women in Oral Surgery Summit, that was a small group, right? And one of the reasons why I went to Baylor was one of the main things that really drew me to it was when I walked through the hallway, they had a picture of all of the each resident had their picture and it was hanging up on the wall and from the entire residency from the beginning. And I
Mhm.
thought that that was such a cool thing. And then the best part about it is that they do these alumni trips every year. And we get a boatload of CE. And it's like it's always to a really great place. And it's just that nice camaraderie with good conversation, good people, good food, good drinks. And we all have that shared experience, whether it's the trauma experience or residency or whatever it is. But I think that smaller group thing is really where it's at because I think, yes, you may not get the broad scope of the CE, but I'm not doing free fibula flaps. And so I
Right.
like to know about that, but I don't need to be
Yes.
sitting through the lectures of that. I don't think at
No,
this
I
point.
totally agree, and that's a big reason. That was, like, the main reason I was inspired to make the retreat, the Doctors All In, because my first experience at Amos was kinda traumatizing, partly for that reason. I went as a chief, and we got to go chief year as part of the program, and I had 2 other chiefs, and neither of them decided to come for whatever reason, and so it was only me. And so I remember walking into this mega conference, these huge lecture halls. There's thousands of people, it seems like. And one, I was so excited. I wanted to meet their women oral surgeons. And so I remember looking, and there's just hardly any women. And then I'd see a woman and be excited, and none of them were oral surgeons. They were all like allied staff members who had come. And so that was kind of disappointing. And I remember just feeling really lost and like, where do I go? And what do I do? And how am I supposed to navigate this? And I remember seeing a couple of staff members from the university. And so it was kind of like few moment. Someone I know. I'm feeling really embarrassed and out of place, and everyone probably knows I'm just a dumb resident. And so it was like a moment of like home. And so I went up and I said hi, and they were talking to each other, and they kept talking to each other, and they didn't stop their conversation. One of them kinda gave me a head nod, the other one didn't. They just kept talking, and I was waiting there politely, waiting for them to finish talking about football or whatever, and then usually, sometimes you don't wanna interrupt. So, I thought when they stopped that part of the conversation, they would turn to me and be like, "Oh, hey, Erin, welcome. You're first. Isn't it cool? We're all
Yeah.
here." Like, that's what I was expecting. But no, they stopped talking about football or whatever, and then they started talking about whatever topic without acknowledging me at all. And I was feeling already so alone. I felt so small. I felt like an imposter. I felt like I didn't belong. And that made me feel so dumb.
Yeah.
And then
Solidified it. Yeah.
I had this awkward feeling like I was actually on my way to the bathroom and I really needed to go. But I'm sitting here listening to a conversation that I haven't been invited to. I haven't
Uh-huh.
had a chance to even say, hey. And I had this moment of, we were just talking about emotional intelligence. This is where maybe my emotional intelligence is coming in. I feel like I should say, "Okay, bye, I'm going to the bathroom," instead of just looking away, but I've never been invited to this conversation. What do I do?
Right.
Do I say, "Oh, hey, I gotta go to the bathroom"? That feels awkward, so I ended up walking away, but that just that was kind of the experience that I felt like I tended to have, and our specialty is so weird. I feel like there are these factions of, like, academic people and private practice people who both kinda other each other, and then there's the MDs and the single degrees, and so it just feels like there's a lot of different factions and a lot of people trying to prove themselves, and it doesn't feel super inclusive to me overall. You can talk about free flaps. What do you think the topics at these are they serving you? Are you enjoying them?
No, I feel like they are a lot of times, sometimes they are. Sometimes you can gather a little pearl here and there, but I'm like, once again, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? I came all the way here for these three pearls and I'm like, well, and so I think a lot of it seems to me like a dog and pony show of like, look at all of the great things that I'm doing, not necessarily how can we bolster, like how can we all collectively as a group be better? What can we do as a specialty that can unite us all, even though we're all doing very different things. Um, but I just don't feel that there's that desire to make it better. It's just like, well, this is how we've always done it.
Mhm.
And it's sort of like, look at all of the great cases that I do. And oh, yes, I do have complications. And here's one picture from that. And this is how I made it better. And you're welcome. It seems like I can scroll Instagram and see that. But I'm here at our national meeting so that we can have actual good conversation and learn from one another, not just have a slideshow of all your great things that you're doing.
I've had similar thoughts and probably on here before, It's helpful for me on some level to see the innovations and the big things we're doing. It's cool that I know that you can place the implants in the fibula before you harvest it and place it. But now that I know that I don't need 10 lectures on that because I'm not
Hmm.
doing that. I'm not fellowship trained. There's no world that I'm doing that. So that's not actually helping me or my patients.
Hmm.
And I remember being in one situation where the thing I do love that they are doing right, I love the on demand option. Because of
Hmm.
COVID, they went on demand. And I love that because I have found some really, really helpful lectures on there. Even the ones that they're giving, not part of the conference that you can just find on your own time, and then they record a lot of them. But I remember going to one session and I used to feel like I got to maximize every moment. I'm
Right.
here and I got to get
Yeah.
my CE in
And of
while I
course, the two things that
can.
you want to see are at the same time.
They
Of
always
course.
are.
Yeah.
They were always at the same time, so you're picking. And then sometimes the ones that they're doing live, they aren't recording, so it really is just like you lose the chance. I think this year they were gonna record all of them, it looked like from what I was looking at, so I'm hoping that's true. But yeah, the ones that I want to go to are at the same time or at a time I can't attend like I did O-beam, which is a thing
Hmm.
we're all required to do, and so I missed a lecture that I really wanted to go to. So, like, the few that I really want to go to, I'm not able to, and then the other ones, I remember one year it was like, there's 3 lectures going on. It's teaching arthroscopy TMJ to residents, which I was like, "I'm not really doing TMJ." I never had any exposure to arthroscopy, and I thought, "Well, I guess I could go learn about arthroscopy," but then it was like for teaching residents. I'm like, "Well, that doesn't make sense for me to go to."
Right.
And then it's like complex hemocranial facial surgeries type of thing, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm not doing that." And then it's like microfibular free flap, micro so it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that either. So I'm like, the offerings are just of no interest to me. And so that's been frustrating to me. So this year I went, I
Yeah.
was like not even wanting to go. I lectured on demand before, and so I got free registration, and so I was like, I guess maybe I might as well just go. As this time, it was a much better experience. So my one of my tips is just if there are demand on demand sessions, is to not feel like you have to go to all the lectures, etc. I just went to the ones that I wanted to at the time I wanted, and I did what I wanted, and I slept in, and I went to the gym, and I met up with friends, and I had lunch, and I did all those things. I only got 4 hours. Well, 6 hour I did 2 hours a day, 6 hours of CE the whole time I was there, but I can go back and watch them on demand when I haven't been sitting in a lecture all day, like, losing it,
Hmm.
choosing the topics that are of the most interest to me, and then I was able to maximize the social networking, etcetera, part of the conference much more.
Yeah. But how long have you been out of residency? Like, when did you finish?
10 years.
Yeah. So it's taken 10 years to figure that out.
Out.
Goodness gracious. Yeah. That just
Yeah, I
seems
know,
ridiculous to me.
I
So I don't
know.
know. And tell me, Erin, what is the one thing that most of your patients are worried about when they come to see you post-operatively, or like when you're doing your consult for like wisdom teeth? What are they all worried about?
Dry socket.
Yeah. Does anybody ever talk about dry socket in our journals, at our meetings? Nothing. Nobody. Right. And like I don't ever really see it. I never really have dry sockets in my patients,
I
but
was
like,
talking to someone else that said I haven't had it in like 10 years, and I'm like,
yeah.
"Then tell me the secrets," and no one
Yeah.
knows. Like, can we do a study that
That's
the
what I'm
people that
saying.
don't have dry socket know why it never happens?
Right.
Like, for
Like it's
me, I'll
just,
go 6 months and I won't have one, and then I'll have 3 in a row.
yeah. And I think that's how it is, right? Because it's
And then what
one,
did
we
I
just
do?
don't
Did
know.
I do something? Did I not do something? Was it just I don't know.
Right. Yeah. And so, of course, these are actually really probably very applicable to 95% of us, right? But these are not the things that we're talking about. So, with that said, I think that what you've done with the Doctors All In and these other sort of um, smaller things is that they're tailored to a smaller group of people. And I actually think that that's probably the way of the future because
Oh,
as we also see, like all of these meetings are sponsored by, big DSOs and all of these things because then it's like, okay, well then what are we not saying? What are we not allowed to say because the head sponsor is this industry
mhm,
person. So then what's written between the lines that we're not allowed to talk about just because they're not as heavily attended. And so they're having to make up for that loss in
mhm,
revenue somehow. That's the stuff that I think about. And I don't like that. I don't like it at
right.
all.
My mom's going to a retreat. She says it's for learning, but I think it's just snacks and naps. You should come too, so she doesn't eat all the cookies by herself. Go to the doctor's on in .org to sign up for the cookies.
Well, I think part of the reason I wasn't excited to go this year was because I had such an amazing time at our own event.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, to me, that was like life changing. It was so amazing, and I'm the one that made it happen. So that sounds maybe disingenuous or something, but
Yeah.
I built the retreat that I wanted to go to, and
Yeah.
the topics were things that I wanted it to be high touch, high yield,
Mm-hmm.
actually help you leave and go and feel empowered to go back and to be a better person and to be a better
Yeah.
doctor and to be energized and refreshed instead of burnout. Because by the time you sat through 18 hours of like
Yes.
TMJ
In some
and
big hotel ballroom.
right, by the time I do that and trying to figure out where I'm supposed to be going and all that stuff, it's like I'm so burnt out and I'm tired. And then it's like, now I have to go back to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you have any other tips for maximizing the conference experience?
I think you're the girl on that. I think the best way to maximize the conference experience is to find the conferences that really suit what it is that you're looking for. I think that
Right.
there's lots of different options, and there's some that are in these really great locations, and so you can kind of utilize that as a way to get away while still getting some CE. There's some that whether it's the ones in Hawaii or there's one in Colorado or
Mhm.
something where they go skiing.
Right.
If that's something that speaks to you, I think that it's good to have that because it's a different way to connect with people that also enjoy those things.
Yeah, I
One
agree.
thing that we did, I think, was we did a lot of the things that I would never ever do on my own, right? I would never do that ropes course on my own, right? Because I'm cheap. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. That and the astrology thing at night and just sitting around and having that shared experience and having the really cool conversations. I think that is something that you can't get at the bigger conferences. And it's something that you can't necessarily get in your normal day to day life. And I thought that that was exceptional. And it was just a really great way to connect with people that do this similar same thing that you do, but on a whole different level.
Oh, for sure. I'm glad to hear that. I really wanted to do the ropes course when I found that they had that there because those are things that get you out of your comfort zone and teach you about yourself as a person and as a team member. And those are things that stick with you. And you're going to remember a lot more that you were, 30 feet off the ground, working with a partner. We were standing, pull yourself onto a cable, but there's no upper cable. And so you just have to literally lean on your partner and go as far as you can as the ropes get further and further apart until you just fall. And that's kind of scary to like let go and to lean on someone else. And those are impactful things where, sitting through another implant lecture where you've heard it all. And not to say that, there is a time and a place, and we do need to be learning those academic things, but I think a lot of times, like you said, it's a lot of showboating and bravado and trying to show and prove how cool we are and how good a surgeon we are. And I'm like, I want the vulnerable lecture. I want like the disasters from the
Mhm.
masters section every time. I want the closed case. I want claim cases. I want to know the bad things that happened. And I had a friend that lectured at Amos this year, and she was talking about using Precedex in her practice. And I'm like, yes, this is
Mhm.
what I want to hear about. You're using it. How are you using it? I want to know, like,
Yeah.
what dose are you using and how much are you bumping them with? And
Yeah, and
how
how's
are
the
you
cost, and how is
deciding?
it like
Yes.
yeah, right.
And I thought she was so brave, and it's dumb that this is brave, but I thought she was, that she like showed cases like this case I did it with Precedex, and it actually took me like 45 minutes, and we had to stop and not get all the teeth out. Like, that was brave to admit in front of
Mhm.
a room of your colleagues where
Mhm.
someone might be judging, like, "Oh, why didn't you just push through? You couldn't make it work," you know? Like, but I wanna know those things, and I wanna see that other people are having those moments too, and when you do have those, when you have that crazy patient who's high on marijuana and got this rodeo sedation going, how are you handling that? Are you stopping? Are you giving more medication? Which medication are you giving? Those would be so practical and so helpful, but I feel like we don't want to have those lectures up there. It doesn't sound fancy enough or something, maybe.
Yeah. Well, and I think everybody's worried about liability with that stuff too. But that's,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? It's just so interesting to me because how are we supposed to learn? Right. But the way that you can learn is in the smaller groups, you know? And so I think
Mm-hmm.
that they do the SIG meetings, the special interest groups. And so I think that they've tried, but again, like they don't really push that stuff very much. And so it's kind of word of mouth because I had no idea what that was until after the fact last time I went. And I was like, well, that's
Right.
frustrating.
Yeah, I do think there are opportunities like that to get involved in, but if you don't know, there's just a lot of those things. If you don't know about the parties, if you don't know about those little interest groups, like I
Hmm.
wish they would put it in the manual, like anyone's invited, anyone who's
Right.
interested is welcome to come. It's just a little quick meeting and it's a great way to meet like women in our specialty, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that the other part too is that having these smaller groups, it gives you that personal connection, like having people to call because we all trained with other people, right? Some had larger training programs and some smaller. And sometimes you keep in touch with people really well. And sometimes you see them once a year at the alumni thing. And it's nice to have those touch points where you have those people that you can sort of ask the hard questions to when
Yeah,
you're not at the meeting, right?
for
Like, hey,
sure.
I had this complication. How have you ever had this before? How do you handle this? Those kind of conversations. But if we're just standing around showboating and talking about all the great things that we're doing, nobody feels comfortable talking about the things where they are having challenges. And I think that again pushes us into burnout as well, right? Because it's like,
Oh,
oh
for
well, I'm the
sure.
only one having this problem because we're not in a hospital setting for the most part, right? We're in private practices. We may be in a group practice, but maybe not, you know. And so it's
Hmm.
I think it's important to establish those interpersonal connections where you can have those discussions.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. A lot of people talk about how great an opportunity is for networking. How do you feel? Do you have any tips for meeting people or networking at these? Is it hard? Is it easy for you?
no, I think the best that I've had is just with seeing people that I haven't seen in a while, and then they introduce me to people that they've worked with in the meantime, and I think that that's helpful. But again, if you don't have that initial connection, it makes it very difficult to let the web grow. You know what I mean? And so when you were saying you felt just so out of place and you went and you like tried to introduce yourself into a conversation and it was like, okay, well, this is clearly not fruitful. Like they're not even going to acknowledge my presence. And I, I think it's just so big. It's overwhelming. It's,
Yeah, I get intimidated. I'm such an extrovert and I'm not a shy person, but I still find myself intimidated
mhm.
sometimes. I do think having someone to introduce you, knowing someone who's well connected can really help. I think the exhibitor hall is probably the easiest place for me to kind of run into people because one, it's just a place that a lot of people are hanging out. Even the vendors sometimes have connections, which can be
Mhm.
helpful. I met one woman, she was looking at chairs and it was like, "Oh, tell me about your chairs. Which chairs do you like? Are you in the market for chairs?" And it opened up like a really good conversation. And later we just
Yeah.
happened to be standing in line at lunch together. And so I think sometimes those are helpful ways to kind of break the ice, but it can be intimidating. And I kind of feel like I'm the only one that seems intimidated, but I know that's must not be true. I think everyone kind of is.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and I would wonder how many people just go to the things and then leave and go to their room. I bet they'd be shocked by the number of people that do that,
Oh, yeah.
which is
I
really
bet.
sad. You know what I mean? I think that's not what it's for.
Right. Right.
So,
Well, I remember I went to a party. Everyone's like, "You got to go to this party." And I walked in and I was kind of like, I don't recognize anyone and I'm really hungry and I don't drink. And maybe it'd be easier if I drank because I'd feel less aware of
mhm.
how lonely I feel.
Yeah.
So I like got in line and I ate food and it looks like I'm doing something important. And then, there are a couple people that I recognize. Some are like people
Mhm.
I don't know that are like bigwigs and the specialty, and some people are people that I am familiar with, but they're in conversations, and if they don't, invite you in, that's kinda hard, so I always try to be the one to, like, "Oh, hey, come on over and chat with us,"
Mhm.
just so people can meet and feel more comfortable, but I remember just like, "Well, I ate some shrimp and now I'm out."
Mhm.
Go to the
Yeah,
next
I get
party
that.
and see if there's, like, one person I recognize, and it's always like a few moment when I see them, but it's tricky.
It is tricky. Yeah, and I think that that's good to get out of your comfort zone and do it. It's to me, it's just hard for me to get away from my kids and family and go halfway across the country and spend a whole bunch on a hotel room and a whole bunch on registration, knowing the experiences that I've had in the past. I'm like, it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah. So
So,
how are you getting your continuing education? Are you doing online things? Have you found
yeah, I do a lot
other
of the online stuff, and then we have vendors around that offer CE, little like opportunities like that. So, but it's always hard to find CE that you actually find like you do it just to get it, right?
Mhm.
And so finding the CE that really is giving you that edge and knowledge and moving forward with continuing your education as opposed to just like checking the box. I think that's the other big thing that we could talk about because we just do it just to do it. I think a lot of times because it's like, oh no, I've got to get the CE and so I think finding those options and opportunities that are really geared towards what it is that you need to learn is hard because everything is
Mhm.
just all over the place. There's no um, central thing that has it. And then to do the on demand stuff, it's expensive, right?
So my strategy for the annual meeting, instead of worrying about going and getting as much in as I can, I try to set a goal for like an hour a day. I'll just
Hmm.
choose one lecture for an hour a day. And doing that, I've got anywhere from like 18 to like 35 hours. So that's almost a year's worth there.
Yeah.
And so that's more helpful to me. And when I set an hour for a goal for hour a day, it means I do an hour like every once in a while, but you have to like end of December. So gives me some time. But I
Yeah.
do want to try some of those like I had like my husband was like, "We should go to this one in St. Bart's or something." I don't remember where.
Yeah.
Scuba diving, dive medicine, and then you get to go diving while I'm like, "That sounds cool." There are
Yeah.
some kind of interesting ones that might be even more high touch that I haven't really looked into, but I'd like to be a little more creative. I know we went to Pinnacle together
Hmm.
earlier this year. What did you think about that experience?
Um, I liked it. I think having had time to reflect back on it, I think it was um, probably much more impactful in hindsight than I realized at the time. I think that's the best way to say that. Because
Mhm.
when I was there at the time, I did kind of feel overwhelmed. It was very big, and it was a lot of um, people that kind of knew of each other or had been there before. And
Mhm.
I think that because it was all women, it was a little bit easier to sort of step in and introduce yourself. And so I think that was better. And I think that the topics that they had were helpful as well because I think they were very suited. And you didn't have to go and choose make all these choices. It was like, here's what we've got. Enjoy.
Mhm.
This is the schedule.
Mhm.
Enjoy. And everybody was kind of in it together, which I thought was good. What did you think? How do you
I
reflect
overall
back on
liked
it?
it. I mean, I thought that the content was really good. It again to me felt also a little overwhelming. It's a really big group of people and
Hmm.
they do an amazing job of getting people to really buy in and be enthusiastic and excited
Yeah.
about being there and part of a community.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it seems like most people had that experience of feeling like the sense of belonging. So it's definitely inspiring to see that. I admire what they're doing. Probably will be back whether this year or another year. I am going to the Do Dental Entrepreneurial Women Conference in
Oh.
November, so I'm kind of
And
excited
how
to
did you
see.
learn about that? I've never even heard
I
about it.
just had a friend who invited me. That's the thing, there's these
Yeah.
opportunities that I didn't know about. I went to
Yeah.
this social media one for doctors, which I didn't know what to expect, and I hadn't heard a lot about it. It was their first time, and I thought it was amazing, so I was there on Saturday and they sent out the, "Hey, do you wanna sign up for a discount?" And I did today. I signed up again. And
Yeah.
I thought it was really great because it was small enough that It was an excellent networking opportunity.
Yeah.
There were enough people that there are a lot of people to talk to, but it also was like, I know all of these people are here trying to do social media and to teach and educate, and
Yes.
so we have something in common. So I think that
Mhm.
niche made it nice. I knew I could talk to anyone, and my lead would be like, what's your Instagram handle? I wanna follow you,"
Yeah.
like, "Let's be
Yeah.
friends." And to me, that made it really easy to break the ice. I met some people there who have millions of followers, and I met some people that have 85 followers, and there was a really nice mix of people beginning and very successful, and I thought it was inspiring because I've been feeling kinda burnt out in social media, like, "Why am I doing this? Do I have an
Yeah.
impact? Do I have a reach? I'm not
Yeah.
really monetizing, so is it worth it?" And they're basically like, "We wanna inspire you guys to do this because it's helping patients, it's getting real medical information out there to serve." And they talked about very practical tips for how to build your practice through social media or how to stage your video, just very practical things. So I
Oh,
went home
interesting.
like, "Oh, wow, there are actually things I am doing today in my life that are helping me." And that was
Yeah.
so beneficial and high touch. So I think there is a place for like the mega conferences, the highly academic ones. I mean, we do need to learn some of those things.
Mhm.
We need exposure to that. We need to see the research that's out there. I think it's important for us to come together as a specialty and just to see who's there and get to know each other and have those opportunities. But these smaller ones have been a lot more high yield for me lately. Those are the ones that seem to be serving me and what I'm looking for in my practice and in my life.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think that's the biggest takeaway from all of this is kind of recognize where you are and what you're trying to accomplish, and then seek out conferences and things like that that will continue to fuel that fire, because otherwise you just get lost in the sauce. You know what I mean? It's nice
Mhm,
to be exposed to other ideas and other things. But when it comes down to it, knowing what it is that you're trying to accomplish and seeking out those opportunities, I think is the best takeaway from all of this.
mhm. Definitely, definitely.
So,
I had a fun week, but I was surprised. I thought I'd worked through all of my, like, conference trauma. Thought I worked on myself, and I'm confident in myself, but, like, the 2 days before I went, I was just like, "I am really nervous to go to this
mhm.
conference. I don't know who's gonna be there," and I think probably the biggest thing that helped, find a friend who's going and go with a friend. And then that just made it fun. I knew I was meeting up with them. I knew I'd get to see them.
Yeah.
I'd have a good time because I'm with my friend. You have someone to lean on. You don't have to do everything together, but it's nice to know, like, catch you here later. And then they have friends and you can meet their friends.
Yes.
And so for me, that was like a transformative experience for the conferences. And this time I knew I wasn't going to be meeting up with my conference buddy. And so that really took away, like, my security blanket and made it harder, and so it kinda sent me back to that old resident feeling. For me, it's kinda like when you go back home to your parents' house and suddenly, even though I'm, like, 42 years old, you feel kinda like that little kid again.
Yeah.
I thought I was a seasoned conference goer, and I thought my mental health was, up to snuff and still had some
Yep.
of those moments and
It all
worked
comes
through it,
back.
but
Mhm.
I don't think I'm the only one that feels that way, but in the end, it
Yeah.
ended up being a good experience, and I'm glad that I went, but definitely I was thinking, "Okay, there's
How can I
definitely
say
some ways that make this better," and I
Yeah.
wish someone had told me years ago, so hopefully you guys will find this helpful as well,
Yeah.
and if you have any tips yourself or any conferences that you
Mhm.
recommend that we should go
Yes,
to, let
please let
us
us know.
know, but we definitely have one we recommend, The Doctor Is All In, which is really centered on building you up as a person. I chose the name because we all like those signs the doctor is in, but I want us to be all in, like holistically taking care of ourselves, both professionally and personally. And that's really what it's about.
Love that. Or go to Baylor and then you get to go on these alumni
Well,
trips.
do they let people come? Because that sounds amazing and it would be
Yeah.
fun to
Yeah, I
connect
think more
with
programs need to do
people.
that. It's
You
incredible.
have like this
Mhm.
trauma bond kind of like whenever I see people from residency, even if we weren't great friends, it's like, oh, there you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Yay. Oh.
Yeah.
So that sounds
So,
really cool. I might
yes.
just
So please I know,
come
right?
with
Crash
you
it.
next time.
That's right.
They're like, "We don't remember you."
You're not on the wall. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I would love to hear these other opportunities like this dental
Mhm.
entrepreneur these things I've just never heard of. And I think it's really important to find ways to share these things. And we're happy to promote, like push out
All
some
the
information
things.
for you too. So let us know.
Exactly. Definitely.
Wonderful. Well, thanks,
Okay.
Erin.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a
everyone.
good day. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Resting Stitch Face. If today's conversation spoke to you, imagine what it would feel like to connect in person. That's exactly why we created The Doctor Is All In, a retreat just for women in oral surgery. Learn more and grab your spot at thedoctorisallin.org. We'll see you next time.